So this is Virginia native grasses, and this video is primarily inventory. There are some invasives in there, like you saw the Russian olive coming in. By the way, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead, and we're looking at some of the pollination habitat. We're actually at the Reynolds Homestead here in Critz, Virginia. And now this area gets a prescribed burn, so these fields are bordered by access points, of course, because this is a demonstration site. And you can see the difference between this area and the Virginia grasses, but there's blue stem in here. There's a lot of different kinds of grasses, a lot of different microhabitats. And the key about this is see how the grass is growing out to succession and getting knocked over. So you can see some deer bedding in here. And of course, there's going to be rabbits. And this is not an area that's meant for humans to go in. But again, it can be flail mode. It can have livestock pressure limitedly. It tends to thrive in a prescribed burn. And then there's ways of doing that. But in the case of application for Prosperity Homestead, we're going to get this grass type area growing. By the way, it's slow growing, very slow growing. But see all that biomass. Now it's a low quality value, low caloric value for goats, pigs, and stuff like that. But I can establish this kind of area using goats, because you really have to get rid of the bluegrass in order for it to thrive. So we're gonna do on our trial pigs, intensive pigs, seeding, building up. You can see the bees out here, and really start building up this soil area, and then of course getting into different grasses. And then the milkweed is very important. It is currently September. So the tall grass becomes great deer habitat. And so you're going to have deer, rabbits, turkey on the edges. We're of course going to have access points around the property area. But this is a Virginia native grassland. And you can see there's some variation in there. Most of these grasses are clumping grasses. They don't tend to spread. They grow really slow. And alternatively, some persimmon. There will be trees coming up. So these grasses need full sun. So we would, of course, select cut for the trees. Not select cut, but basically we might end up flail mowing periodically to get rid of the trees if we're not if we don't have an environment where we can burn. If we're doing a 20-foot by 100 and some foot long trial strip, we may not be able to burn that out. But you can see dragonflies. That tells me there's a little bit of moisture back here somewhere. Lots of little tiny pollinating insects. Definitely birds. And so what we're going for is the bird habitation, the pollination habitation. We're going for the diversity of the ecosystem. So we're going to have stuff to feed the birds, have stuff to feed the animals. Now, some people would be worried that there will be rats in here. Now, like I've shown you, not likely to be rats. There could be foxes in here. There could be snakes and rats, but again, it's not as likely because those animals tend to be around people. So if I'm not getting rats on the property that I have Virginia savanna, and by the way, if we left a few trees in here, or we had this in between silvopasture, then we're moving towards a Piedmont savanna, and the conditions would be excellent for deer, turkey, and such. But you can see the big difference. Non-managed area, or non-natives planted or introduced, versus native grasses, blue stem. There's a whole big list we can put together being introduced. So we're going to walk in here just a little bit more. Now, I'm not going to enter the space because it's a managed habitat. It's a conservation area in a sense, so we don't go in and out of the space without being involved in a study. But ultimately, that's why there's access points all along the outside. Again, we're at the Reynolds Homestead here in Christ, Virginia, and we are enjoying a Virginia native grassland that is a bursting ecosystem as far as the wildlife is concerned, as far as our beneficial insects, pollinators. So how do we incorporate this in a homestead? Well, just as there's this signage post in the middle of here and there's these grass paths, we could just as easily have beehives in a favorable location across here that may get mowed around, yet the bees would have this kind of area to, of course, collect pollen and nectars. And so it's a very low cost, very low maintenance establishment that can continue to grow for years to come. And yeah, there's autumn olive in here, that kind of thing would be managed, but a lot of these grasses will take care of themselves. So you may be looking at maybe once a year after establishment, flail mowing or burning. You were going to look at no watering's necessary once everything's established. And so now you have just wonderful shelter, wonderful flowers. And so there are native flowers that can come in here, but I wouldn't be as concerned about the management of the invasives. The key is to address the key species. So you have a the keynote species. And again, I see some honey locust on the other side over there. You want to prevent the trees from coming through, unless of course it's going to become, you're going to move it towards a Piedmont savanna, and then you would have trees on contour in a silvopasture configuration. And then of course animal pressure, it's not necessarily a substitute for the burn pressure, because burn is indiscriminate, where your animal pressure, they will have preferences. So we're going to do a trial. We're going to do this, a similar concept to this, with livestock, small livestock, homestead scale livestock. But I want to show you it professionally done and here at the Reynolds Homestead. You can hear all kinds of birds and such out here. So if you like this kind of content, I am traveling across Virginia to different areas, going to like the Reynolds Homestead, going to historic gardens, going to nature conservation areas, going to areas that can show you this stuff as it grows, as it matures. And he told me that this has been burned once already. So last year it was a little more defined clumping. Here it's just really filled in. Beautiful, beautiful example. And you know, if you're a hunter, you can imagine deer coming through here, turkey in here. Great breeding habitat, great shelter habitat, definitely a lot of bees. I've seen 3 or 4 different types of bees. Oh, there's a wasp right there. A really quality set here. Now again, you're going to get seeds from outside coming in, and those seeds are going to change the variation of it, but with the simple management. Now, would I bring pigs in here again? So maybe we're gonna, so he said they herbicide it and then they till it. I'm gonna go with a natural regenerative method, which would be pig impact, allowing them to till up the ground in sections, planting it with seed, and then rolling that seed. And then ultimately the pigs would no longer come through this type of area. Because pigs tend to have soil tillage. We don't want tillage. After that point, it gets growing. We might flail mow it a couple times, When it gets growing even stronger, higher density of plant recovery, the blue stem, long stem stuff's all in here. Then we may put goats in it once a year, or have a prescribed burn. So maybe goats 1 year and a prescribed burn the next year. Anyway, beautiful butterflies, beautiful habitat here, and this is what you can have on your homestead. This is way easier to manage, even if it's just a strip. So you don't have to take a whole 2 acres to do it. I think this is a 2-acre plot. You could simply have a strip that's 30 feet wide, 24 feet wide, and hundreds of feet long. And even if it's just a demonstration, it's worth your time and effort. Now, many times here, collecting seed's valuable too. So you don't need to buy all the seed. You can start expanding these types of gardens. But can you see how this is a part of the succession? Grasslands, then savanna, then forests. I hope you're enjoying this. If you want me to go to any particular location, please in the comments below let me know. If you want to see any specific kind of forest succession or land succession, let me know and I'll get that in a video. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead here at the Reynolds Homestead here in Christ, Virginia, showing you a native Virginia grassland and all the wonders it has to offer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next podcast.